that a lot of agency owners I see fall into is that everything relies on them.
I want to sell my agency in the next X amount of months. And I'm like, that's something you should have been planning for years because if your business is running well, it's an attractive acquisition.
Exit your business before you officially exit the business. By preparing to sell, you're building a profitable business, which is going to be a benefit to you whether you sell or not. So you should always be building with
Preach
that
that.
mindset.
Welcome to Agency Bytes. I'm your host, Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I help agency owners build the business of their dreams. This week on Agency Bytes, my guest is Courtney Spritzer. She's a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, author, and co-founder of both Social Fly, the social first marketing agency that she built and sold, and Entrepreneista, the community and platform she's now scaling for women founders. Courtney is also the co-author of Like, Love, Follow, a strategic guide for using social media to grow your business. And her work has been featured everywhere from Forbes and Inc. to Bloomberg and the New York Times, and now on Agency Bytes. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super grateful we were able to carve out some time. I know you're busy running media mogul worlds, but I think what you have done in your career is super inspiring, and I felt very called and drawn to want to get that story and share it with our audience. So it's one of my key tenets is find inspiring stories and resources for female and minority owners, and I feel like you set that stage very well in what you've accomplished. So I guess before we get into what you're building now, which is so paramount, I'd love to kind of start more at the beginning. What was your original spark behind Social Fly? What did that journey of building it over? It was more than a decade, right? Like, what did that look like for you from the inside?
Yeah, so I actually started Social Fly on the side of my full-time job when I was working at American Express.
Hmm.
And it was when I got to Amex that I realized that social media marketing could even be a career. So when I was at NYU, Facebook was only available to college students, but social media, kind of like how AI is the talk of the town today. Social media was the thing that everyone was talking about, and it was so new, and no one really knew how it was going to evolve. So when I was in college, I didn't realize what it was going to become until a few years after I graduated. And when I saw a company like American Express doing what they were doing so early before any big company was really embracing social, that's when I realized that social media could be a career. Up until that point, I was pursuing a career in finance. That's what I thought I wanted to
Oh,
do after I
wow.
graduated, and I had studied economics, and I thought, "I wanna work my way up and have a career in finance." I also graduated in 2009 during a really tough time in the economy. So
Uh-huh.
now here I am in my early 20s, a few years out of college, working in corporate finance, and I realized in those 3 years of working in corporate America that I'm a really hard worker, and if I'm gonna work this hard, I wanna do something that I'm passionate about, and at that time, it was social media, so I shared that with my friend who ultimately became my business partner, Stephanie Carton, and she was like,
Hmm.
"Why don't we start a business together?" And I was like, "Okay, you know what? I'll try this on the side of my job, see what this could be, learn on the side." And after about 10 months, it became too time consuming to try to do both. We had a few clients on the side, and I was young enough with, very minimal responsibilities at that time. I didn't have a family. I had, student loans. I had a little bit of money saved up, and I gave myself 3 months to make it work, otherwise I was gonna go begging for my job back. So, I tried to quit as professionally as possible because I didn't know if I was gonna need them to take me back, and Stephanie and I quit our jobs on May 4th of 2012, which is always a day that we celebrate big launches because everything there were a lot of hard times, but everything did
Hmm.
end up working out, and one thing led to another. That first week in business after we quit our jobs, we left corporate America on a Friday. We celebrated Cinco de Mayo on a Saturday. On Monday, we went to work at Stephanie's apartment and decided that the first thing we wanted to do was get interns. So we put an ad on Craigslist. Then by Wednesday, we had 6 incredible interns lined up to work with us, and then we needed all
Wow.
this space, and then we found a family friend to barter with us for office space, and he asked the question, which was actually kind of setting the stage for what I'm doing now, which is how are you going to get your clients? And we said, oh, we're just going to go to a bunch of networking events all across New York. And he said, come with me to my networking group. It meets at 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And we went and we joined and we didn't, we self-funded this business. We had no money, but we invested in putting ourselves in the right rooms very
Mhm.
early. And then in that group, we met an SEO agency who taught us how to do SEO. And then we became number one on Google for social media agency. And that's where all of our big clients came from. So I always say,
Wow.
to entrepreneurs who are just starting, you're probably not going to have it all figured out, but if you continue to put yourself out there, one thing will lead to another, and one introduction will lead to another. And the next thing you know, you have a successful business.
Wow. Yeah. So leaning into networking, sage advice, and not easy to do in your early 20s when you've got no clients and you're staring across the desk at your partner, like, all right, we're in business now. Where are our clients? How do we make money? Putting yourself out there takes a lot of courage, but quitting your job is, I think it's the only way to do it. The people that are like, this is a side hustle. I'm like, no, quit the job, do the side hustle full time. Otherwise, you've got a fallback, a safety net. And then are you really ever going to lean fully into the side hustle? So I love that you did that. And then you launched the Entrepreneurista podcast in 2018 while you're running the agency. What drove you to do that? What were you seeing like in the marketplace or in you and Stephanie? Like, what was the call to do that?
One of the things that Stephanie and I did early on was practice what we preach. So we always use social media for ourselves to
Hmm.
get visibility for our business. I know a lot of agency owners say they're what's the saying, like the shoemaker with bad shoes or something.
Yeah.
We were very, what's the word? We were very specific in how we wanted to and very deliberate in how we wanted to show up representing ourselves, because to your point, we were young. And being young was actually a strength because no one really knew about social media at the time that we started. There weren't as many social agencies as there are today. We were one of very few. So for us, we wanted to showcase our expertise by leveraging social media capabilities for ourselves and then bringing those learnings back to our clients. So when podcasting was becoming popular and our clients were asking about it, we were like, okay, well, this is another situation where we have to dive right in and learn it so we can bring these learnings to our clients. So we decided we wanted to create a podcast. We could have created a podcast about marketing, which we probably should have, but we decided to create a podcast called the Entrepreneista Podcast, which was a fun term that we used to describe ourselves. And at that point, we were 6 years in business and really loved entrepreneurship and had already created a community of women entrepreneurs we could go to first to ask to be guests. And that was really the idea. Just learn podcasting, talk about a topic that we love. And then one thing led to another. We started to build an audience and a community. And then COVID happened. And that's when we realized that we were doing a lot for the women entrepreneur community by sharing these stories. And Entreprenista could be so much more than a podcast.
So that was like the evolution of the
Yes.
idea of this community. And I love that so much. Talk about kind of your path towards the exit and like, were you exit minded? Was that kind of like a happenstance if somebody knocked on your door or there's a relationship or and here's why I'm asking that. I get a lot of people that reach out to me. I want to sell my agency in the next X amount of months. And I'm like, that's something you should have been planning for years because if your business is running well, it's an attractive acquisition. And so I know you built a really strong business. I got to know some of the people that work with you over the years. So I'm curious what that was like as far as readiness for an exit. And was that on your horizon or did it kind of just happen?
So when we first started the agency, the goal was have a career that we love and look forward to going to work every day. What
It's a
we
good goal.
realized through a women entrepreneur who became a mentor of ours, who also had a social agency, in one of our first meetings with her, she said, "Read the book Built to Sell." So Stephanie, and it's a quick read. We read that book
Mhm.
very, right away. We bought it, read it, loved that book. Still recommend it to this day. And that was a few years into business, and that really opened up our eyes to the fact that we could build something to sell it. That wasn't necessarily the intention on day one. And then what started to happen as we were starting to build a name for ourselves was that people, other agencies would reach out to us asking if we would entertain conversations about selling. And we took those meetings, learned about the process, got close a few times, but then realized as we were getting farther and farther down the road in conversations is that we really, if we wanted to do this right and have a good exit, we needed to prepare. And that's when we started to think about what are the things that if you're selling your company, a buyer is going to want.
Hmm.
And those are reoccurring clients, clients that are on retainer, diversified clients, a brand, revenue growth, profitability, great EBITDA. So, to your point earlier, we started to prepare because we knew we wanted to eventually sell. We didn't necessarily know when, but by preparing to sell, you're building a profitable business, which is going to be a benefit to you whether you sell or not. So you should always be building with
Preach
that
that.
mindset. And look, you can exit your business in different ways. You could sell to your employees, you can promote people to run it without you. There's lots of ways to exit without actually selling, but building a
Hmm.
really strong foundation will give you more options. What ended up happening was COVID changed everything for myself personally, our business. We both personally left New York. We started to run the business remotely. We kept our office. We started a new company and some other ventures. And we started to evolve as entrepreneurs. And when entrepreneurs started to get a little bit of traction, we decided to put Social Fly up for sale, and we hired a company, Tobin Left, to represent us. And what they did for us was really package up everything, clean up everything, put together a data room, and really run a process.
Hmm.
That whole thing from the time of engaging them to getting an offer took about, I think, 10 months, 11 months. And then after some back and forth, we closed at the end of February in 2012. And then I stayed on a year to help with the transition. And then last year, I completely exited. We sold 100% of the company. And now Stephanie and I are fully focused on Entreprenista.
Amazing. Congratulations on that. And thank you
Thank
for kind of
you.
walking through the optionality that you talked about because so many people I think get so like tunnel visioned on sell, 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 or I'm stuck or whatever. And when you build a business that's running really well and you spent the time and you intent with intentionality, you built this thing that we can sell or we can let somebody else run it or like that's just so vital because too many, I think, entrepreneurs pull on other people's goals and say, "Well, they did it. I want to do it." And I see it a lot. So I love that you kind of were open about this was your intention, but it doesn't need to be everybody's intention. There's other things that people can do. All right.
And
So
the
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and just for any agency owner listening, the trap that a lot of agency owners I see fall into is that everything relies on them. If they were to
Mhm.
leave the business doesn't run. And if you wanna sell a business, you need to make sure you're setting it up so that if you're not there anymore, everything runs. And you do that through the right process and systems and people and infrastructure. And that is really important. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to sell your business and officially leave. You'll have to stay along with the business for forever or
Yeah.
or you'll have to figure out what the right structure is. So, that's something I'd
Yeah.
often advise agency owners to think about is exit your business before you officially exit the business.
Yeah. Owner dependency is a vital and crucial lynch point of what can make or break a deal or make or break the offer, what the deal structure looks like. So all right, let's talk about Entreprenista. That's the big picture. That's where we are now. That's where I feel like you're like the most passionate about that you've, been through the common thread of running your agency and even before that, like talk about what Entreprenista is all about, what you're doing, the DNA behind the community.
Yeah, so the private membership community started in officially in 2021, and now we have over 3,700 members all across the country. And we're growing every single day. So the goal is to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. And what we're doing inside the membership is there's about 10 to 20 virtual and in-person events happening every single month. And that's networking sessions, bringing in experts from the outside to share things with the community. Stephanie and I both do office hours. We'll bring some of our podcast guests in to host things for the community. Our members will host certain sessions for the community. And it's it's a lot of networking, knowledge sharing, sharing the best tools and resources. And now, we started it during COVID, but now the big push over the last year and a half has been more in-person events, and now our members are leading meetups all across the country. So now in any given month, there's probably 5 to 10 in-person events happening
Wow.
anywhere in the country, which is really nice to see the evolution of that. And then we're also a media company. So that's kind of how we started. So now we're
Mhm.
2 podcasts. We have Entreprenista podcast and Startups and Stilettos, which is for our members. And then we have our newsletter that reaches over 110,000 women. And then we have our socials, articles on our website, our awards where we highlight 100 entrepreneurs every single year and do a lot of promotion for them to get them more visibility. And then we also have our annual retreat, which is coming up in 30 days. It'll be a 4-day retreat hosting 300 members. So there's
Wow.
lots of ways that brands can partner with us to build relationships with our members.
Amazing. So the intention was build this private community, the Entrepreneurs to League or Entrepreneurs to League community. What is it for you as like an entrepreneur and a business builder? What does it mean in practice to build a community that like people genuinely invest in and want to be a part of to keep attrition down? Like what is that all about? The business side of it for you?
Yeah. So Stephanie and I have joined so many different entrepreneur groups since the early days of
Hmm.
starting our business. And when we decided to start Entrepreneurs and launch it into a private community, we took the best of all of those different groups that we belong to and created something that we wish we had not only when we first started our business, but even something that we really lean on now that we're in on our second business. So the members of our community are at all stages from just starting to on their second or third business or running a business that's doing $1 billion in sales. It's a very wide range, but what everyone comes to Entreprenista for is to really support the women entrepreneur ecosystem because we know the more we collaborate and help each other, the more that everyone rises and grows. And that's really the ethos of what we started, despite what level you're at. And then, of course, as we have evolved and now to the number of members we have, there's customized programming for different stages of business. And the other big benefit to Entreprenista is that because we have these media platforms, we can really spotlight all of our members and give them visibility that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because we know Stephanie and I have been in the media industry for a long time. We've been interviewed, on TV and done this and that. And we know how hard it is to get those opportunities. And a lot of times, these legacy media companies only want to cover someone who just raised $5 million or $10 million or someone that just had a big exit. But the real success stories are the people that are building profitable businesses, self funded, and don't have to answer to anyone. But for whatever reason, no
Yeah.
one wants to cover those stories.
There's so much hope in the bootstrappers and in
Yes.
the people that are
Yes.
juggling whatever else they're juggling in what they're building. And I feel like that I don't know the metrics of it, but I imagine sure there's plenty of like Fortune X fill in the blank companies. The bulk of the companies, at least in this country, are the small businesses of bootstrappers like winging it from their kitchen table with a couple of friends that said let's quit our jobs and launch a business, and so they need the support of an entreprenista. Yeah. So programming is awesome. Media opportunities is awesome. Is it kind of like an EO for women entrepreneurs where you're
So
providing them coaching and
how
go ahead.
we've designed it is there's different tiers of membership. So one of the
Okay.
things that we wanted to solve is, I've been in memberships that are $10,000, $15,000 a year to be a part of, but you don't use everything. You don't need everything. You need different things at different stages of business. So we've designed it so that you can there's a base level membership and that gets at you access to the virtual community and some of the in-person things that we do. And then if you want more visibility or private groups, accountability groups that meet monthly, you there are different options that you can sign up for. And then our retreats also are additional. So we designed it so that everyone can stay in for as long as possible, and it's not a one size fits all approach, and you can sign up for what you need.
Very cool. I love the in-person part of it. I think that, we said before we hit record, IRL over URL is where it's at. I have a ton of events coming up in the next bunch of months, and I'm stoked for them all because I'm just like screen burnout is still a thing, even though like it was a thing during COVID, it's still a thing now. So you juggle a lot, right? Angel investing, which we can talk about, authorship, community builder, a lot of threads there. For you, what's like that connective tissue that keeps you coming back, that you keep coming back to, where that kind of drives you through all of those?
Yeah, I mean, for me wait, sorry, can you repeat the question?
What, like all the things that you're juggling, what drives you through all of them? What pulls you into them? What's the common thread there for you?
Yeah, for me, I have just seen how helpful it was for me as we were going through our entrepreneurship journey to have people in your corner cheering you on and people to go to for advice, and we know how powerful that could be, and we've essentially brought our network to this community to give everyone kind of a head start. And then what keeps me going, because entrepreneurship is really hard even in the later years of it, is I am a workaholic whether I like it or not, and I love entrepreneurship and I love helping people, and I feel really good about the work that we're doing now because a lot of people will come to us and share how life changing it is, how one introduction can really transform someone's life and
Mhm.
business. And I see the impacts we're making, and it just keeps me going.
I love that. For me, one of the greatest feelings I get is when somebody says, "Hey, you connected me with so and so years ago, and it has like spiderwebbed into this thing or turned into this." Or, yeah, I love that. What about like young entrepreneurs entering the workforce or early in their careers? Is there early career development aspects to it, or student aspects, or anything like that?
We don't have that yet, but
Okay.
definitely something that we get asked. But yeah, we don't have that yet. I mean, Stephanie and I will go back to our schools. I went to NYU, and I'll go and talk there from time to time, and she'll do the same thing for where she went. But yeah, maybe eventually as we continue to evolve. But it's an interesting time right now. It's all about
Yeah.
AI, so I'm excited to see where everything goes.
How is AI playing a role in community development, in what you're doing with Entreprenista, what you're seeing in the world that you're in now?
We're really trying to lean on it to make us as efficient as possible and help improve our workflows, but we're in the
Mhm.
business of connecting humans. So, I'm excited. It makes me really excited to work with humans and maintain that those connections in this world that we're talking about is AI, but we are
Yeah.
definitely starting to use Claude and Claude Cowork and learning all about it. We're very beginner level, but, we have to learn so we don't fall behind.
That's kind of the mindset of an entrepreneur, is you've got to be as far in the cutting edge as you can be so you don't get left behind or run over in the meantime. Yeah.
Exactly, but I love that we are all about human connection, and we're
Yeah.
gonna hope that hopefully that is here to stay.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I'm a huge fan of providing resources for female-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. I think Entrepreneurista is an amazing resource. I'm all about community over competition, and I feel like you're kind of pulling all that stuff together, driving things forward for 3,500 members. That is absolutely mind-boggling. Good for you. And 5K is right around the corner for you, I am sure. So, where can folks find you and Entrepreneurista League community?
Yeah, so you can find me at Court Spritzer on Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are the two places on social I'm most active. And Entreprenista is at Entreprenista on Instagram, entreprenista.com, where you can find everything about what we're doing, the awards, the retreat, the membership, the articles. It's all there. And if you're listening and you're a women entrepreneur, would love to chat with you.
Yeah, and I'll put all those contact information and channels in the show notes so people can drive as much traffic as we can. I think the resources are vital. Wrap up real quick, a couple of super quick, what the heck do I call these things? Random rapid fire questions. I don't know where that went in my brain. All right, random rapid fire questions for you. First thing is, what's something that you are binging these days? A show, a podcast, a book that you just can't get enough of?
I'm not watching TV anymore, unfortunately. So every now and again, there's
Good
a
for
good
you.
binge on Netflix, but I'm not into one right now. Honestly, I'm binging Claude Cowork. I'm really trying to learn it as fast as possible because I feel behind.
Valid. Valid. Learn it all. What is a gadget that you recently integrated into your life or your workflow that you look back, like, how the heck did I live without this thing? And it can't be AI.
It is. It's Claude
It can't
Cowork,
be.
but gadget. I don't know. I'm,
Yeah.
like, not into like, I feel so behind in tech, which is why Claude Cowork is my focus right now because 'cause I'm not adding gadgets to my life. I'm really
Okay.
this year focused on human connection, in-person events, like, that's what I'm doing. I'm really trying to maintain my sense of human in this world, so
I fully respect that. All right. And the final wrap up, what is an invaluable piece of business advice that you wish you had learned early in your career that you later learned?
the decisions that you make today will impact the life you live 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So, if you want to retire early or live a specific life, the decisions you make today will all have an impact on that. So, remember that when, you wanna eat healthy and live your best life, make the good decisions now.
Love that. Courtney, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for joining us. Folks, specifically the lady listeners, check out Entreprenista League Community. All the contact info will be in the show notes. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.